Wait. Before we go,
No, we're gone. Good night.
your favorite breakdancing movie?
Breaking. Good night.
All right, you do get an answer. You heard it here first. Perry's favorite breakdancing movie is Breakin'. The original, not the sequel. Sometimes the original films are just far superior. Oh my god. Um, I don't know if the coach was boozed up. I don't remember the photo. That's crazy about the delivery driver, though. I'm still thinking about that. The delivery driver being a fan, like that was so it's so genuine too. When you look back at that, like he had to like he was probably starstruck in a weird way. Let me see. Hold on a second. Trying to find this thing from my niece if they posted. Oh yeah, they won. Um, Coach doesn't look too drunk, but they won, and deservedly so. Deservedly so. Does that make me a bad uncle? Maybe. Maybe. Wasn't there another like breakdancing series in addition to Breakin'? Like, wasn't there like? I feel like it was like there was another there was another breakdancing series, and then it kind of like how in the '90s, the early '90s, you had that Lambada movie, and then there was the Forbidden Dance that came out at the same time. I felt like there was dueling breakdancing movies. Am I wrong about that? I mean, am I remembering it wrong? And I've never seen any of them, by the way, just for the record. Oh, Beat Street, Beat Street. That was Beat Street. Yes, I got it before anybody. Beat Street, because I remember that. I remember the rap from the TV commercial. And I don't did Beat Street ever have a sequel? It was just one movie, but it was like I remember when I was a kid. I remember the commercial was like Beat Street, King of the Beats, hearing the music from across the street. Like it was like it's this whole, and I just like had it in my head like, oh, Beat Street. And then which was the better? Which came first, Beat Street or Breaking? That I don't know. I think it's 80. Got to be 84. That would be a good film festival. Breaking one and two, Beat Street, and then Lambada and the Forbidden Dance. The second one was Beats Street. Breaking and entering. Yeah. Danky Doodles just woke up. Sorry, we're just about ready to close shop. Uh, there was a part of me tonight. I was like, we're having all those problems with the thing. Um, there's one guy that actually sent me a DM, like a DM to like my Facebook Messenger, and he said, "If you don't get the stream back on YouTube, I'm not watching anymore." And I wrote back like, "Ha!" I thought he was kidding around, and then he goes, "No, I'm not kidding. Like this is bullshit." He's like, "I cleared my whole Friday night for this, and it's not even playing on my TV. I don't." And it was like this whole thing. I was like, "Whoa, dude!" It's like, oh, I'm sorry. There's nothing I can do. It's out of my hands. Am I a Pee Wee fan or an Ernest fan? Yeah, I'm both. Way more of a Pee Wee fan than an Ernest fan. And really only for Pee Wee's Big Adventure, the movie. I like Pee Wee's Big Adventure, that movie. I was a little too old for Pee Wee's Playhouse, even though I appreciated it. Um, and I like it here and there. But to me, Pee Wee's Big Adventure. First of all, Tim Burton's best movie. And I only saw Ernest Goes to Camp. I never saw any other Ernest movie. Maybe I'm missing out, but I feel like I kind of missed the boat on that. It's too late. Yeah, it's not like some people. I guess if you have Roku, it's harder to stream Twitch, but there's ways around it. But yeah, the guy was really confrontational, and like it's like I don't appreciate your dissing the YouTube viewer. Like the YouTube viewers are like this. I swear to God, they're like this whole other contingent of PCL fans. Like they just will not watch the stream unless it's on YouTube. And then and God forbid if you don't have the chat going on YouTube or if you don't have everything the right way on YouTube, they will let you hear it, which I kind of like in a way. To be honest, I think it's endearing in a way. It means they love the stream and they want to experience it the way they want. Yeah, the PCL complaints department. Poops talked to me, said I could hear the frustration in your voice. Perry was pissing me off how dickish he was to you. Yeah, I was trying. At the, there was different points where he was just really unbearable. Have I ever seen the Pee Wee Netflix movie? Yes, and it's awful, just awful, so bad, embarrassingly bad, embarrassingly bad. I've always wanted a sequel to Pee Wee's Big Adventure, like to continue that timeline, but I don't think we're ever gonna get that. Yeah, I guess that's true. Belushi says it was a funny contrast of dealing with the tech issues and then fixing them, and then Perry losing his mind trying to put together like a toddler's drum kit. Yeah, I know. Watch Ernest Scared Stupid. Okay, I like Jim Varney. I always thought he was really funny, really talented. And wasn't he working on another Ernest movie like right before he died, or is that like an urban legend? YouTube people are so entitled they can be brutal. I know it's always been the case. It's always been the case. Yeah, and I can't put on uh, I'm not putting on chat on YouTube only because we don't have the extra people to moderate. By the way, there's a new moderator. PCL Shaft is now a moderator. He volunteered his services, so round of applause for Shaft. And again, like I said to him, we don't really need much moderation. We're very lucky in that there's not that much trolling that goes on or anything like that. There's like a very rare that there's like this crazy spamming of the chat or anything like that. It's luckily it's pretty under control. Knock on wood. That might not always be the case. Did I like the ninja movies of the 80s and 90s? Yeah, I will admit I fell into the ninja craze of the 80s. Uh, Probably because I was such a big fan of like GI Joe, and I was really into like Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow characters, and that carried over into like this whole ninja craze. That was like, God, there was so like they even had like regular TV shows that had like most dramas had an episode that involved a ninja at some point. Ninjas were so I mean, God, there were so many movies in the '80s that had like a ninja in the title. So yes, I definitely got into that. I think I was probably out of it by by the by the '90s, but I remember renting the movie Pray for Death because it had like a great cover. And then there was another one, Nine Deaths of the Ninja. I remember seeing anything ninja. Me and my friends would watch, and then they'd be terrible, of course, terrible movies. But we wouldn't process that they were terrible because we thought they were cool. I don't know. It's hard to. My feelings on the GI Joe new movies, the new ones, is I've never seen them, so I don't know anything about them. I was almost tempted to see that Snake Eyes movie, but I'm so far removed from that. Like when I was a kid, with GI Joe, like I had a hard out, like right around like the late '80s. I was still trying to um, get into, be into it, and then I read the comics. I was into the TV show. I was into the toys. I was all in with GI Joe, and then as soon as they put out that character Serpentor, I was out. I thought that was a little over the top. That character to me just ruined it. It was so over the top and stupid, and also like you had the perfect villain in Cobra Commander. Why are you gonna have this new guy come in? There's probably like three people that even know the reference I'm making, but yeah. So I was out, and but peripherally, I still enjoy like looking at like there's a couple of great YouTube, not YouTube, Twitter accounts that like focus on old GI Joe, and they'll have like graphics and images and stuff like that, or like pictures from like the Sears catalog. Ninja Assassin, yes, I've seen that a long time ago, not recently. Yeah, if it was a shitty ninja movie that came out in the '80s and it was in a video store, chances are I saw it. Anna says, threatening TomB you're never going to watch again is prima donna brat attitude. But that's YouTube fanatics for you. Yeah, I know. I didn't think it went that far. I really, and it was something as somebody I never heard of before. Like not somebody that like regularly messages me or something. It was like somebody I'd never heard of before. But in a way, if I can remove myself for, I get it, because if you plan your Friday night around this thing, and you got yourself all set up, and we've been streaming to YouTube, you know, I don't know, a few weeks now since that BS suspension, that um, I can kind of get how you'd be bratty, but you should have the wherewithal to be like, okay, I'm going a little too far. Did I see Ninja Turtles from 1990? Yeah, I saw it in the theater. I went with my sister, who was my sister. I was a little too old for Ninja Turtles. My sister was the exact right age, and I went with my sister to see that. Yeah, I didn't think anything of it. J Horse says Twitch being a priority makes 100% sense. Yeah, it does. This is our hub for as long as it lasts. Maybe one day it won't be, but for right now, it it is, because, like I said, we get the most uh, we get the most new people from Twitch. It's not even a contest. Have I ever seen the Ghostbusters ambulance in Bethpage? No, but to be honest with you, I'm not the biggest Ghostbusters fan. I think Ghostbusters is tremendously overrated, and I know that a lot of people will get annoyed by that because people just automatically worship Ghostbusters. I don't, and I don't give a shit about this new movie coming out. I really don't. It's supposed to be terrible, by the way, from the early reviews, but I just doesn't matter. Belushi says Perry trying to cover up him saying a no word genuinely might have been the most I've ever laughed. He just isn't built for trying to do something smoothly. No, not at all. And by the way, I the H word that he says on rare occasion, it's not even a TOS thing. It's just I tell him that it is because I just don't want him going even anywhere near that zone. But yeah, it's amusing, but I still mute it out on like the replay. I still mute it out because it's just I'd rather it not be a part of the stream, and it's just like a knee jerk reaction that he does. Yeah, there's another Ghostbusters. There's like a new Ghostbusters that continues the. It just looks so. It's just so stupid. And it's also got that annoying kid from Stranger Things, and I hate Stranger Things, and I hate Stranger Things kids, and I hate Stranger Things anything, and I hate any Stranger Things kid or any Stranger Things person that's in a movie. I will not see anybody. Poop says that you kind of like Serpentor. Yeah, I never did. I thought it was the jump the shark moment of GI Joe. He was just he was a ridiculous character, and then when they brought him in the cartoon too, he was even worse in the cartoon than he was in the comics. Bad Branch says, odd question, Tom. Does the Bluetooth speaker say I'm turned on and ready to go? Uh, what's the brand of speaker? Because that audio clip is pretty funny. Yeah, you know what it is? It's a Jambox, and they were really God. Jambox was one of the first Bluetooth speakers to come out, like the portable Bluetooth speakers. Um, and I just had an extra one because I had it, and I know he needed. There's actually a better way to do phone calls. We can do it through Skype directly, but this has worked out. It's actually worked out, and I kind of like that. It's very Perry, that speaker. So yeah, that's it. It's called the Jambox. They don't make them anymore. If you want to buy one, you have to go on eBay or something. Like it's not the greatest for music. Like there's much better Bluetooth speakers out there if you're into that. But for what we use it for, it's perfect. As like a just like a giant amplified speakerphone. But there's I think it was a Jambox Mini, and then it was the big Jambox or something because I had a couple of them at one point. Yeah, you thought Perry having a raft in his place for 30 days. I know, and maybe I can kind of talk him into the 30 days stipulation. And by the way, I was going back and forth with Dr. Gunk on that, and I was saying, hey, are you flexible on this 30 days thing? Because I can maybe try to convince him to blow up the raft for the 300. And he had a hard no. He was like, nope, not for $300. For $300, that raft stays inflated for the full 30 days. And I was going back and forth with him. I was like, what about the patio? Is the patio acceptable? He's like, no, it is not. It has to be inside the apartment for a full 30 days. And I was like, okay, I appreciate the hard stance. Like he was not, Dr. Gunk was not budging. So I was like, okay, fair enough. I don't think I could get this done tonight, but I'm going to try, see if cooler heads prevail on Sunday. So that's why I told him not to throw it out because I am going to offer it again. But man, I mean, it is going to be, it's kind of like when he turned the microwave around and it was like for a few week period that you had the microwave turned around. It was kind of like something cool to look at. Like, can you imagine? Like, just, and I do feel bad. Like, I don't want his whole place. Like, we went through, like, we were just on Skype together. I almost recorded it, but then it was just not the kind of thing that was like, it didn't really have any entertainment value. But we just went through all the things on his couch, and he had stuff from like, God, months ago. Months ago. It was the same story like when I went there in person and I saw like stuff that should have been obviously thrown away. And I was like, yes, obviously throw that away. Obviously throw that away. So there was so many things that we cleared out. But he's hell bent on those like paintings and everything like that. But man, a giant boat, an inflatable boat in his living space. I mean, there's ways it could work, but we'll figure a thing. What kind of post-it notes does Perry have in his monitor? That's a good question. It varies. A lot of it, yeah, like don't like things he writes. Don't threaten to quit or something like that. Obviously, that doesn't work. He has like a list of words not to say. He doesn't have any passwords or anything like that, thankfully. But it's like it's like little reminders to himself. One of the new notes is don't talk to anybody on the phone with an Indian voice because he got scammed a few weeks ago. Well, maybe it was like a month ago now. He got scammed by some. I think I mentioned that where we God he accepted a call. He got a text message, a phishing text message. And most people get those every now and then, and you just kind of either ignore it or block it. But it was like right after he lost that Pablo lawsuit, and it said, "Hey, a civil court has ruled in your favor. You have won $25,000. Click here." And then he clicked there, and then it gave a number, and of course he called the number, and it was Bob Smith, who was and God, this he lasted way longer than he should have with old Bob, and gave him he gave him his bank account, his PayPal, and oh boy, it was disappointing because we had been through that so much. Did I ever hear back from the partner program? No. And I'm gonna write it again. I'm not gonna write them again, but no. I mean, can you believe that? Can you believe that I didn't hear back from them at all? I mean, they're such ball breakers. And I'm at the point now where the only reason I really wanted the partnership thing was because of the controls that you have to scale down the resolution and stuff. I mean, there's other financial benefits, but at this point, I'm almost like, uh, I don't know if I want to bother with it again. It's such a annoying process. The boat can mark the passing of time in PCL land. Yeah, yeah, I know. I'd like. It's funny when he first opened it. I was like, "What? Who said?" Like, how? I looked it up too on Amazon. Thankfully, it's only $30. I wouldn't want somebody spending a ton of money on that. But uh, I was like, "What? Where are we going to go with this?" Because he's never going to do this. But he got so angry with it. Again, it's the timing of things. Like if he opened that package first early tonight, if he opened that like one of the first things he opened, it would have been a very different reaction. You would have had a different, and that's what's really beautiful about Perry Caravello. I know somebody in the chat was saying earlier, like, "Oh, this is getting old of him denying offers." It's like, okay, well, have you met Perry? He's going to deny offers. I got news for you, especially when he's worked up. He's far more amenable when he's a little more clear headed. But if he opened it one of the first things on the stream, he would have been like, what are you sending me this for? And he wouldn't have gotten his. I don't think. My guess is that he wouldn't have gotten as passionately angry about it. But we'll see what we can do for Sunday. Hey, Tom, I'm not trying to crap on you in PCL, but I think Twitch partner was always impossible in today's world. The way Perry's negative about gay people and could stay away from adverts. I know he doesn't say the effort. Nah, I don't. I disagree with you because he's really not. Um, he's really not overly negative about gay people. It's more the 92 thing. And we, like I said, we had a Twitch person helping us early on, and he's not with Twitch anymore. And I don't mean Sam. No, it's not that. It's like it's just I don't even know if we ever got in front of like real human eyes in terms of the partner review. But whatever. I'm not. It's not on my. It's not on my brain at this moment. He says, "I like the idea of on a day off, Perry having to navigate around the boat to make breakfast." I know. Can you just imagine like the calls and voicemails I'd get? Like, this fucking boat is going in the trash. It's getting burnt. It's getting burnt right now. No, Perry, you got to keep it 30 days. Fuck that! I don't care anymore, motherfucker. It's like there's no way it would last 30 days. There's no way it would last 30 days. He would just lose. He would just lose it. I mean, we'd have to take bets on how long you would have it for, like how long you would have that, how long it would last. There's no way it would be 30 days. No way. Kyler says, if Morrissey was a PCL fan and offered to create a new intro song for PCL song, would I take it? No. No. Have you heard anything he's done in the past decade? It's awful. God. Unbearable. No, I would turn that down. He's lost his mojo. And I say that as a diehard Morrissey fan. The man has lost his mojo. He's like Superman in like Superman 3 where he's like sitting in a bar drunk and he's like lost all his power. It's just disenchant. It's a sorry state. But yeah, the simple answer to that is no. Mitch here injects some logic, saying, "Tom, you should push for how $500 would be like 2 months of a Forerunner payment." Yeah, in the moment, he's never going to understand that logic. It's possible that he would understand that logic at other times, but no, he would never understand that logic. Would that be two payments? I don't know. what would the breakdown be on that? Don't eat the Italian soup. Yeah, the Italian soup thing was fantastic. I was surprised he did it. He needs Johnny Marr. He needs somebody. Morrissey needs somebody. He needs Steven Street. He's got to get rid of these guys he has in his band now. Morrissey, I'm talking about. They're just diabolical. They're just Morrissey cancer, and he's just so. There's no self awareness there either, which is a huge problem for any artist, really. When you get to a certain level where you've just lost your mojo, and you think you're still putting out good material. Oh, the death certificate was good too. When he said he was going to bring, I almost want him to go to a courthouse with that, but I don't. I don't want to go to um, anything anymore. I never liked Johnny Marr and Modest Mouse. I'm not a Modest Mouse guy at all. That's not my style of music. And there's something cringe about modern Johnny Marr too. To be quite honest with you, and I say that as a fan, and I say that as somebody who's seen him a couple of times. He's a little too full of himself. There's this annoying ego about him where he carries himself like he's Keith Richards. It's like, okay, you're Johnny Marr. Most people on the street don't know who you are. You got to be a real music nerd to know who you are, and you carry on like you're God's gift, and that gets a little annoying to me personally. That's just like an ego thing that he has. That's annoying. So they're both annoying. Both modern Morrissey and modern Marr are both annoying in different ways. And Hannah says something very true here. She says that Twitch keeps a bigger cut of the partnership if you're not a partner. So it's really in their best interest not to approve every partner. But there's so many partners that are like don't even have the level of engagement that we have, the numbers that we have. It's really atrocious that we don't have it. But I'm a certain way where I have tunnel vision for certain things. Like whether it's a product I want, like if I have like, oh, I want this new whatever. It could be a kitchen tool or a new blender or a new speaker or whatever, some kind of little gadget that I want. I have tunnel vision for it, absolute tunnel vision, and then I get it, and then I don't care it, and then I'm like, why was I so crazed about this? And I've been that way since I was a kid. I don't know if it's like an obsessive compulsive thing or not, but you get tunnel vision, or people. Like a girl you like or something like that, or a guy you like, whatever the case is, you get so obsessed by that one thing and you just have tunnel vision for it and you don't see clearly, and then you either get it or you don't, and then after that you feel weird. And I feel like that's kind of the thing with partnership for the channel. I had tunnel vision for it, in more in like a business sense and like a sense of building the channel. I was like, we have to get this. And after the events of what happened, with losing the thing, I kind of don't care anymore. It kind of took my drive away from it. I'm still going to investigate it and everything like that, but it's not the same. That was Hannah signing off. Good night, Hannah. I'm not far behind you. Here's Belushi's impression of the would-be voicemail from Perry. Tom, you motherfucker, I just fell in the fucking boat and spilled my fast food. That is healthy for me off stream, but terrible for me on stream. You motherfucking son of a bitch. You motherfucker. I'm taking a knife to it right now. You motherfucker. That would be about right. DJ says, loved your tip read, Tom. Oh, thank you. I haven't done that in a long time because we haven't needed to. I gotta drink water after I do Perry. It was a necessary evil for me to do it. So, if anybody has a special request and you absolutely want me to read your tip, I can do that. But I think most people prefer the TTS lady. She does a much better job. I tried to sell them all, though. I tried to not mail any in. I really, the people sending them in, I really tried to get it across, the point across, as best as I could do. Kyle, would I continue doing PCL if Publishers Clearinghouse came to your door tomorrow with a $7,000 a week check for life? Yes, I would. I would, because that money would probably go to Perry over time, and so no, and I enjoy doing PCL, and I'm really proud of what we built up, and now we have like a staff, and it feels like a real thing after an entire year. So yes, I would continue doing it, but if the number went up considerably, I'd give it a second guess. Which is personally, since I think since Trump left office, YouTube has been less censorial. Yeah, I agree with that. Minus music and movies, uh, you might make tons of cash on Twitch. Just think their moderation is sporadic. Absolutely, that's true. Of course, as Tom nails the Trump impression. Really, I don't think I did that great of a Trump impression. I've never done it, but that was the first time I ever did. I might have done one in my head or something like that, or maybe to a friend on the phone. But yeah, but getting back to Twitch and YouTube both have different thing. I think Twitch is definitely heavier on content censorship, and YouTube is heavier on like media censorship. Not censorship, but like you know DCMA and things like that. Although they've gotten more lenient about it over the years. Back in the early days of YouTube, when I had my first channel, my channel was torpedoed because I had the copyright strikes. They don't give too many copyright strikes anymore. A strike would mean like if you're using like a movie clip or something like that, even if it's under fair use, a movie studio can come after you, or a TV, whoever the owner of the content can come after you, and you get a strike on your channel. 3 strikes and you lose your channel. That doesn't happen anymore. Now it's basically like, okay, you just can't monetize it, and if it is cleared for monetization, that money goes to the creator, which is a far more fair system. But YouTube has other problems. Like honestly, like Twitch is fine with like foul language, like Twitch, as long as it's like an over 18 stream. But now, like YouTube, like for example, nothing on Perry's YouTube channel can really be monetized, except like if we start uploading clips and stuff, they'd have to be censored, like bleeps when he like starts, because that's why the beginning of the intro is bleeped a little bit, because on YouTube, when you start playing, like the first 30 seconds are really important for their checks of like if you have a curse in the first 30 seconds, they really flag you. So yeah, it's just kind of a pain in the ass to navigate. But yeah, both Twitch and YouTube have different issues to navigate, and it's really annoying. But yeah, and also I think it's like it breaks down too with like media clips. It's like there's a certain amount of time you could show it, and then the context of how you're showing it. It's strange. I'm still learning it too. It's like I'm still there's this YouTube channel I watch that just basically tells you all about if it's for creators, and like um how the algorithm works, how the checking system works, and how you can get away with certain things and how you can't. So it's interesting to hear the ins and outs of all that. Do I like the band Ghost? I've never heard of Ghost, so I guess the answer is no. Yeah, she says that thing about the series finale for PCL is Perry losing all his money that he made over the past year in a court case against Ronald McDonald is perfect. Yeah, that's about as perfect Perry as you can get. We've never been DMCA'd on Twitch, like with media share, because the clips are under a certain length. You're not showing all like the DMCA is mainly if you're playing a full song, like especially new songs, like new music, or if you're like literally watching a movie or a TV show, like the full thing on your like if you're have it in the back or something like that. That's bad. But the way we have it, it's not going to be that big of an issue. It's never been. It's just on YouTube. What I've done is when I upload them to YouTube, it, some of them get muted out on YouTube, and then but part of me is like, you know what, I'm just gonna just not monetize it and just leave it up, because if they're not gonna copyright strike, it's not that big of a deal. See you later, Belushi. Am I a Billy Joel fan? Absolutely not. No, I can't stand Billy Joel, and I say that sitting on Long Island. No, I don't like Billy Joel. Never did. You know what? To be fair, there's a couple of early Billy Joel songs I don't mind, but no, I'm not a Billy Joel fan. You love how Perry still talks over the tips, even when I'm reading him. At least I can stop and tell him he's talking over it. The poor TTS lady can't do that. They have song reaction channels where they play the whole song. That's crazy to me. Like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know, like how you get away with that, but that's cool. If you never ever want to monetize your channel, I guess you can do that. That's the thing that Mitch mentions. The new child protection stuff on YouTube is annoying. They won't let you. They won't let you minimize the life at the outpost. Well, life at the outpost, by the way, is not clear. That is wide open as far as copyright goes. And thanks to Bellyful of Swans, who's in the chat right now, who is the guy that originally sent in that media share where we discovered Life at the Outpost. It's really because of him that we have that song. But yeah, it's not under any. It's like one of those things that just fell through the cracks. Like there's no issue with that song. That's why I've played it so much on the stream. It's easy. So no publisher has claimed it or anything like that. So that gets through no problem. Did Perry make any money off the Big Three app? No, no, of course not. Not surprising. Slam. I thought Perry's friend, you mean John D, was a pre-planned bit when he instantly answered the phone. Hey, when are we going snowboarding? Dude, no one was more surprised by that than me. No one was more surprised than that than me. Because, you know, he's been talking about this for so long, and I just know, and I said it on the stream, and I said, um, he has these one-way conversations with people, meaning like he'll just go on like talking to somebody in a DM, whatever, and he'll never hear back from the other person, but he'll still keep talking. And so when he was saying like, oh, me and John D are going snowboarding, I was like, boy, really? Like, I just feel like you're inviting yourself, and maybe this guy is just annoyed by you. But I had this whole thing in my head just from past experience with Perry, thinking like, oh man, like I don't want him driving somewhere and like uninvited, and like he in his head he has this scenario that isn't real. But John, to his credit, was a super nice guy. Like, got along with Perry, and I even got to ask him if Perry was always an asshole or he was just an asshole since his accident. Um, so yeah, I think we got to have John back on the stream at some point. He was driving at the time, so we didn't keep him on too long. But yeah, apparently that's gonna happen. So we'll see. Because Perry was asking about taking off that Wednesday before Thanksgiving. So I guess, we'll do that Tuesday. We'll do a media share Tuesday that week, and then figure out what we're doing. But yeah, it was so strange. It was so strange. I was almost like, is Perry trolling me? Did he hire somebody to play the part of John? Like, what's going on here? It says it's actually kind of sweet that Perry is best friends with John. I thought he was just someone Perry used to shut down all. No, I knew he was a real guy. I just didn't know that. I didn't know that. Uh, I didn't know that he was still an active person in Perry's life. You know what I mean? Because he can talk about a girlfriend that he hasn't seen in like a quote unquote girlfriend that he hasn't seen in like 15 years. You know what I mean? And it's not exactly a real thing. Merch soon, yes. Merch is coming soon. Yes, we're working on that right now. And when I say we, I don't mean Perry. The good merch, not the shit that they sell on Streamlabs. Yeah, I know. First thing John asked was when they were going snowboarding, and we've been totally felted by Perry. I know. I felt it, but I was happy for him. I was actually helping him because, think about that. It would have been sad if he called John and be like, "Who's this?" It's Perry. Perry, when we going snowboarding? Perry who? Perry Caravello, your best friend. Oh. How did you get this number? Like, I'm driving right now. What, what is this about? What's it about? We're going snowboarding. I'm going snowboarding with you and your child. Thanksgiving Day. Barry, I'm gonna have to ask you not to call me anymore. I'm busy right now. I have a family. Please, if you could. I mean, that would have been that would have been really sad. So I'm glad it didn't go down that way. To be honest with you, I'm glad John's kind of sounds like a sweet guy and looks after our guy. The PCRC shirt is great. Yeah, I think he still has it. I'd like to make that. When is Perry's Adult Swim show? They haven't said. They originally said fall, and it's now the fall, and it's not here. And I don't think it's definitely not coming this month, and I don't see it coming in December because I think they would have said something. So I'm just gonna guess that it's gonna be early 2022. I know the guy that works that's working on it. The two guys that work on it that write it and they direct it and they're very hands on. Like every frame they obsess over. Like they even have a deal where like when the show goes to HBO Max, like they even curate like what the thumbnail looks like on HBO Max. Like that's how hands on they are. They are really um, thorough in terms of like the animation. And Perry's episode is definitely the most complicated of the entire season because his part's live action and then animated around him. So hopefully soon. Hopefully that comes out soon. I'm very. I've seen some early rough footage of it, and it looks great. Like people are gonna really love it. I'm not just playing that up. You guys are gonna fucking love it. The show overall is very good. Yeah, I'm a little worried about him snowboarding to be honest. As long as he keeps on some kind of even keel, some kind of like basic thing, like where he's not going down a hill or anything like that. Kyle, will there ever be PCL T-shirts? Yes, lots of PCL T-shirts, PCL hoodies, a lot of PCL, a lot of cool PCL stuff. Still working it out. They will be stuff. Trust me. I know we've dragged our ass on that. Not a fan of AEW, but I would love to see Perry as a wrestling manager who was terrible at managing. That's cool. Does AEW do they have managers? Because that's a bygone thing of wrestling where I thought managers were so crucial, especially in the '80s and into the '90s. PCL smoking jackets, no After Hours smoking jackets. But I love the manager role, especially when you got a lunkhead wrestler who can't really talk or get himself over, where the manager does that for you, like really entertaining managers. So if they have managers, that's awesome. PCL members only jackets, that would be funny. I got some buzz going on here. I can't figure out where it's coming from. Do a little Fonzie. That seems to take care of it. PCL penis pump. I don't know about that. maybe that'll be a specialty item. Paul Heyman was good, but he's not in the league of a Bobby Heenan or even a Jim Cornette. You know, he's not on that first tier for me. But then again, I was never an ECW guy at all. PCL brand duck eggs, yeah. I'll take those ideas. Oh, Dustin, you're gonna be in Vegas next week? Awesome, have a great time. He's gonna scout tattoo removal places. Good. Also scout venues for me. Scout like a small like a smallish, you know, like venue that would be totally cool hosting a PCL live event. Not to give you too much to do. Jimmy Hart's good. But Jimmy Hart was always the same note. Jimmy Hart was good, very good. But again, I feel like there's a couple of guys that are just on the upper echelon of managers. It's Jim Cornette and Bobby Heenan, like 1 and 2. They're almost tied. But Heenan gets the slight edge because he was the absolute best. Do a shitty PCL smoking jacket and a nice one for After Hours. Yeah, that'd be cool. Is there a specific date for the RC event? I think he claims it's June 26th, but again, you know, the whole celebration of the date itself, I think, is overplayed and kind of a trope of other things that I don't know if I'd want to do. Just a quick look. It is a Sunday, though. It is a Sunday. The 26th of June is a Sunday. How was the Monkees concert? It was good. I went to 2 of them. I went to one in New York City and one on Long Island. Both were excellent. Had a really good time at both. Sound could have been better at the New York City one. But it really, really enjoyable. Jay Harris says, giving Heenan the slight edge is fair. Yeah, you got to give the Heenan the edge over Cornette. As good as Cornette is. And what bums me out, again, I've said this before, but Bobby Heenan passing away, or you know, really just spending the last 10 years of his life not being able to talk because of throat cancer is devastating, because Cornette has this great podcast now. I've not really heard the podcast in full, but I come across him a lot on YouTube where he just has like quick takes and stuff, and he's really great to listen to. I just think, man, Bobby Heenan would have been the absolute best podcaster. Like, he would have crushed it podcasting, even if it was not wrestling. Did I ask Peter Nesbitt about his mom invented whiteout? No, I didn't get to that point. I have met Michael Nesmith before, and he has recognized me a couple of times in the past. He actually shouted me out from stage a couple of years ago, and it made my entire year, because I was sitting in the front row, and he was between songs, and he pointed at me and he goes, "Hey, I know that guy." And we had just talked like a couple of days prior, and I was like over the moon for that. I was like, "That's really cool." That was my little moment. Ravi says, "Yeah, not a Cornette fan, but he's one of those dudes. When he's right, he's right." Yeah, and I'll tell you the truth. I really missed his whole era. Like, I was never into that Southern wrestling. I was more into the WWF brand. And as cartoony as it was, I was all on board with that. And I wasn't really watching WWF in the 90s when he was a part of it. I only got onto Cornette like in the early 2000s, and maybe like when he started doing like shoot interviews and really talking straight, because he doesn't mince words, and he's just great to listen to. Even if you're not a wrestling fan, he's great to he just I mean, the guy, he has so many great little phrases he says. He said this thing that I want to steal, but I can't figure out how to steal it. Because I would never say this kind of thing. But he was talking about how and I'm gonna bastardize this story, but I was listening to it recently, and he was talking about how he got clearance from Vince McMahon to do something. This is when he was in the WWF in like the '90s, and somebody else lower down the line, maybe it was Vince Russo, maybe it was somebody else, was mad at him that he didn't clear this thing with him, whatever it was. He was mad that he didn't go through him. And as he was telling the story, he's like, and I told him, he's like, well, if I got the okay from the horse's head, I don't feel any need to communicate with the horse's ass. And I thought, what a great way to put it. like, like what an awesome put down. It was so great. And he's got a million of those things. They just come off the top. They just fly out of his mouth like crazy. It's just damn yeah. So Corny's Drive Through is the podcast. And I basically just listen to the YouTube channel because they just have all clips and stuff like his opinion on Hulk Hogan. He's got an opinion on everything, and 98% of the time I agree with him 100%. It's great. It's just great. And I gotta go out of my way to listen to the actual podcast because I'm really only listening to the clips, and I feel like I should listen to the podcast. And I'm not a podcast guy. I hate most podcasts, but he's so goddamn entertaining. But then again, getting back to the whole thing about Bobby Heenan, it bothers me. Listening to him be so good makes me depressed on how Bobby Heenan would have been all the better. I think Bobby Heenan would have been better. But anyway. The funniest thing Cornette ever said was that Scott Hall's claim to fame was being in the ring while Shawn Michaels wrestled the ladder for 30 minutes. I heard that too. That was great. Yeah, and speaking of Chief Jay Strongbow, like they did this whole thing about Hogan, and I say this as an unabashed Hulkamaniac, Hulk Hogan fan because I grew up in the right time. So for all his flaws, I'm never gonna say anything bad about Hogan in the '80s. But he said like the whole hulking up thing came from Chief Jay Strongbow, like how it was not an original thing, and I thought that was interesting. Dustin says, call Perry right now with an Indian voice from a block number and see what happens. Scott, you know what? I'd be afraid of what happens with that. Damn. Mitch says, hey, TomB, who contacted you for that BBC YouTube thing about the real story of Randy? It's funny how Perry didn't recognize you. Remind me, what was that? Oh, wait. Was that the... that was West. That was West Most. Sorry, I took a minute for me to realize what you were talking about. That was West Most. No, I just started watching Dark Side of the Ring because I found it on Hulu. Like, I pay for Hulu. And I never watch it. And I was looking at... So I watched the... I haven't seen any of them except one. I watched the one... Because I just went by titles that I thought would appeal to me. So this actually... When was it on... Boy, I think it was Tuesday night. I watched the episode of Dark Side of the Ring that had to do... This is actually really fascinating. Because I never heard about this. When Eric Bischoff took a bunch of WCW guys over to North Korea to fight in a match, that was arranged by this Japanese wrestler promoter. Oh my god, like it was really interesting. It was too bad because like Ric Flair was there, and the guy they really needed in the to interview was Flair, but they had everybody but Flair, which was disappointing. I would have liked to have heard his take on it, but just the whole like story of like how these guys were treated in North Korea, like basically like prisoners, and like even like Eric Bischoff was talking about how he decided to go jogging one morning, and how he'd be like running through the streets, and like children and adults would run away from him in horror because they were basically trained to fear Westerners. So it was very interesting, and some good stories. I never heard of it, but yeah, I want to watch the other one. I also want to watch some biographies and stuff like that because I'm so used to watching YouTube stuff now. It was actually weird to see, not weird in a good way, to see an actually well produced like real production on wrestling. With like expensive cameras and like real like documentary style rather than some guy doing it in his house. Although the majority of the time I prefer the guys doing it in his house, like that Wrestling Bios channel. But yeah, so I want to watch more of those. Uh, Frank Perry is not gay, right? I don't know, Frank. You can tell me. Yeah, a lot of people hulked up. That's what Cornette said. It's like he went, but I think Chief J Strongbow was one of the early ones. But yeah, he went through a whole list of people that did their variation of hulking up. It's just that Hogan made it, I guess, more mainstream or got more eyes in front of it. Did I ever hear the story? Joey says, "Did I ever hear the story about Stu Hart keeping a bear under their porch? One time, the bear spent a night in prison because he was original owner screwed over some people during a wrestling show." No, I never heard that. I gotta be honest, like the Bret Hart stuff, I watched some stuff with Bret Hart. I like Bret Hart. I like watching him. He's a great technical wrestler and all that. But I just think he's boring as shit. Like I just I think there was a missing element to him, and I think he has an ego that's a little out of control for what he is and what he was. That's just me personally. Did I watch Hogan Knows Best? Not regularly. Unfortunately, that didn't showcase Hogan in a great way. He can't. I hated that show because it was in that boom in the early 2000s after like the Osbournes and everything, where like everybody was getting the reality show, and it was just all watered down shit. And I just thought Hogan Knows Best just made Hogan look like pure white trash. And I didn't want to see him like that. I don't care about the real Hulk Hogan. I don't care about like Terry Bollea or any. I know he's done some shitty things like business wise. I don't really care about any of that. I only care about the character Hulk Hogan because that made me feel something when I was a kid. And when I hear like real American whatever, it still raises the hairs on my arms because I can remember watching like all these great Hogan matches. And so now yeah I did watch it, but it's shit. It's total shit. No, no, I didn't see the Hulk Hogan porno. I have no interest in that. Rick says he hate. I think the reality TV boom though is pretty much over, right? I mean, the only stuff that really lasted is like it's funny. Survivor kind of kicked off reality TV, but it still is on network TV, and it's kind of outlasted all these other shows. But yeah, I don't think people care. Like, is the Kardashians still a thing? I've never seen it, but is that still a running thing? Like, there's not too many shows that show like day to day life stuff. And by the way, all that stuff is mainly staged too. Joey says that Scott Hall went to Bret Hart's home one time during the '90s when Bret was the biggest, and he said every room in Bret's house was coated with pictures of Bret in wrestling gear above his bed, and even in his match. Like, yeah, there's a very good wrestling bios YouTube on Bret Hart, mainly at the end of his career, like basically from the screw job onward till like the Goldberg thing, and it's pro and con on him, and he just I thought I just I don't know there's things with him that I don't get. Like even that there was that weird WrestleMania where Hogan like what WrestleMania was it where the main event was Bret Hart and Yokozuna in Vegas, and then Hogan came in really quick at the end and had some weird stipulation where he won the belt, and then I think the deal there that Bret Hart said was that Hogan was supposed to face Bret Hart at SummerSlam and then Bret Hart would win the belt back at SummerSlam, and I thought that would have been really cool. And then, of course, Hogan always looks after Hogan and didn't do it. But so that would have been interesting. But yeah, he just never did it for me. He was never dynamic for me. I liked him better as a tag team with Jim the Anvil Neidhart when they were bad guys. I thought he was more interesting in the '80s than he was in the '90s. To be perfectly honest with you, I never was excited to see Bret Hart as a solo, like, you know, champion. I don't think he was, because I saw some interview with him. Um, at some Canadian TV right before the Montreal screw job was he was mad at the WWF because on pay-per-views he as the champion wasn't the last match of the card, meaning that he was like the second to last match or the third to last match. I was like, even watching it now, I was like, yeah, you're not that interesting. You're just, even for the night, like you're great and everybody says that, but you're great technical wrestler, but you just don't have those dynamics. And also, my barometer for like a great champion, if you, especially WWF in the 80s or 90s, is if you pull a random person off the street and you ask who that person is and they know it, you've gotten over. Like everybody knows who Hulk Hogan is. Even today, you can ask anybody. 9 out of 10 people on the street will know who Hulk Hogan is. Not maybe not 9 out of 10, but most people know who The Rock is. Stone Cold Steve Austin. But Bret Hart, you got to be a wrestling geek to know who he is, and that's just the way it is. Gary wants to know what the Montreal Screwjob is. Go on YouTube. There's so much stuff about it. But basically, the Bret Hart WWF champion running was leaving the WWF for the WCW, their main competitor, and he was doing a Survivor Series match in Montreal. That's where it was, and he was facing Shawn Michaels, and they had a lot of heat, meaning like rivalry between the two, both scripted and non-scripted. And Vince McMahon's whole thing was he didn't want Bret Hart leaving the WWF as the champion and go bring his belt onto WCW, who was the main their main competitor, and he wanted Bret to drop the belt to Shawn Michaels, but it was in Montreal, and Bret didn't and you can see both sides of it, but it's just there's more details to it, like how exactly the match was supposed to go, but Bret, everybody thought that Vince screwed Bret Hart, but Vince later came out and said it right, and I agreed with Vince when he said Bret screwed Bret, and it's true. Bret screwed himself because he favored himself over the business. He favored himself over the TV element, and he legitimately got mad at Vince and everything. It was this whole thing. It's very interesting. There's a lot of documentaries on it, but it's just and Shawn Michaels is no prince either. In fact, I don't even like Shawn Michaels, but it turned into this whole ugly thing, and then look, even after that, like you would think that he would have all the momentum in the world going into WCW, but I think a combination of the lack of dynamics on Bret Hart's part, and also the terrible creative over at WCW. Like he just didn't do anything when he was there. He was like, it's like you would think, like coming off that screw job thing, like he could have rolled in there. But I think the creative department in WCW let him down, and I think he let himself down because he just wasn't that interesting. And that's just my opinion. And I know a lot of people just like worship at the temple of Bret Hart, but I'm not one of them. And I feel bad about what happened to him and everything, because Goldberg basically ended his career. I don't think he would have lasted too much longer anyway, though, to be honest with you, the way he was going. That's interesting. Poop said in the South you knew more about Ric Flair, Road Warriors. It's funny. I would see wrestling magazines on the stands when I was a kid in the 80s, and I only knew WWF, and I would see pictures of Ric Flair with like blood on his face, or like the Road Warriors, and it was like an alternate universe. I was like, who are these people? Where do you see this? Because if you didn't have cable, there was no way you didn't see any NWA stuff in New York. It just didn't happen. But very interesting stuff with the wrestling stuff, and there's just a lot of, and not now. It's funny, all the wrestling stuff that I consume now is just in the past. It's just like reading, not reading, but like watching documentaries or listening to podcasts, or because I just find it so interesting. the dynamics of, the 80s and the 90s and through the early 2000s. But that's it. Nothing now. Nothing now. This besmirchment of Bret Hart is sacrilege, TomB. Well, I give him credit for being a great technical wrestler. I do. I just don't think he was a good champion. He's not a good face of the company. That's just my opinion. I just don't think he had the personality for it. There was speculation that Michaels and Vince had sexual relations in some way. That's interesting. Yeah, because it wasn't that thing when I forget. I think it was in the Garden in like '96. I guess it was when both Diesel and Razor Ramon were leaving, and there was a like a tag match. I think it was like Diesel and Razor Ramon versus Triple H and Shawn Michaels, and after the show was over, they all came in the ring and hugged each other because they were saying goodbye. And Vince, was furious about that because you're exposing the business at the time where the business was not exposed, meaning that you can't have like bad guys and good guys getting along in the ring, like giving a tearful like hug, the curtain call, and of course you can't do anything to Scott Hall. He's leaving. You can't do anything to Kevin Nash. He's leaving, and Michaels was the champion, so he's the golden boy. So Vince in there, but Triple H is the guy that got in real shit, and they basically made Triple H like go around and apologize to everybody, and they took away his push. Like he was supposed to win Money in the Bank that year, and he got sidelined for it. So he of course, look at Triple H now. He's married to Stephanie McMahon, so he did okay for himself. But he's the one that got real deep shit, and Shawn Michaels got away with everything. So yeah, I've heard that. I've heard that Shawn Michaels got away with a lot of stuff. I didn't hear about the sexual stuff though. That I find a little hard to believe, but who knows? There's nothing better though. Speaking of wrestling. Yeah, I know he took the apology back later, of course. The whole thing with when Scott Hall and Kevin Nash went over to WCW, WCW may have dropped that ball later on, but if you go back and you watch that first time that Scott Hall is basically crashes WCW, and it's only a week after he was last seen on WWF TV, and they kind of played it as if WWF stars were rating WCW. It's played so well, and he's basically playing Razor Ramon. And if you can look that up on YouTube, even if you're not a wrestling fan, it's just great storytelling. Where he's doing all the stuff on the mic, because WWF at the time was doing all these promos where they were shitting on WCW, saying like, oh, billionaire Ted Turner in a boardroom with like old Hulk Hogan and like Scheme Gene Okerlund, and he gets on the mic and he's like, where is billionaire Ted, and where is Scheme Gene? Have I got a scoop for him? And it is played so fucking well for those few weeks leading up to Hogan eventually being in the the NWO rather. It's so great. Now it eventually went to shit, and they didn't have a middle or an end. But the first act of the NWO on fucking WCW is some of the best fucking writing for wrestling ever. It is such a perfect idea. It reinvented Hogan. It re-energized him because I think people were just burnt out of the Hulkamania thing when he turned heel. It was so good. It was so fucking good. They blew it eventually by just having too many people involved in the NWO, and there was no creative direction for it. There was no end to it or whatever. But goddamn, that first year or so was fantastic. It's just great. Yeah, Sluggo says the NWO angle is probably the greatest of all time. WCW almost beat Vince with it for 2 good years. Yeah. Right, and WCW did sue WWF sued WCW over Hall and Nash, and they had to admit that they weren't contracted by WWF. But you know what? The lawsuit was worth it because it was done so well. It was done so fucking well. that those early stages, even before you knew Hogan was the third man, when it was just Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, just like literally trolling. And to Bischoff's credit, and Heenan too, even though he was kind of mailing it in, like just the broadcasters, they sold it like it was like guys crashing. And if you're a kid watching it, you probably thought that was real. It was just amazing. It was really amazing the way they did that. And you'll never see that again. You'll never ever see it again. Kevin Nash blew a knee out just mentioning his name in the chest. Yeah, he wasn't. He wasn't the healthiest guy. Tracy says I like the Ultimate Warrior and Million Dollar Man Ted DiBiase. Ted DiBiase later went to WCW, but without his Million Dollar Man gimmick, he really wasn't anything. The Million Dollar Man gimmick was fantastic, absolutely fantastic. In elementary school, a bunch of kids got expelled for wrestling at school, like what you'd wrestle in school, like actual wrestle. That's interesting. I don't know how we got in this whole wrestling thing, but it's an interesting topic of conversation. Yeah, I heard that Hogan had to be talked into the NWO thing, but you know what? It was the right decision. It was the right decision because Hogan. There was some early pops in WC. A lot of people, a lot of WCW fans, like they resented Hogan coming in because he just he turned it into the Hogan show, and then how many times you're going to see Hogan Flair, and he was 2 years in '96 where he was okay, Hulk Hogan, the red and yellow, and man, he had one of the best heel turns ever because his whole speech when he first turned and how he was lashing out at the fans. I mean, it was really perfect. It was pitch perfect. And then you take that moment and then lead it all the way up to in WWF in 2002 for WrestleMania 18. Was it 18 when he fought The Rock? I mean, it's just God, that was beautiful, just beautiful. Where it was like Hogan was heel, kind of they were doing the NWO thing again in WWF after WCW collapsed. And again, speaking of, I think it was Canada, it was Toronto, and man, people just went off the rails for Hogan. Like there was just all this wave of nostalgia for that Rock Hogan match, and I think I've said this before. That's the match that really got me back into wrestling because I had been out of it for a few years. I wasn't really that into it, but goddamn, that was brilliant. Really good stuff. But you can watch those wrestling documentaries and not be a wrestling fan and find them interesting. And I've said this to Joey too, like just personally. I treat PCL kind of like wrestling, like a wrestling booker in a way, where Perry is a heel character that can sometimes be a face, but doesn't know that he's either one. And sometimes some of the stuff is, you know, shoots, and sometimes he's kind of not in on it, but like he's performative, and then other times he rages out. But in terms of like the writing, it's like, or like coming up with ideas for it and shit, like, and I think all of us, in terms of people, including people that send in comments, whatever, it's kind of like that wrestling writers room mentality in a way, because that's kind of what it is. And I remember, God, I was like, I think a couple of weeks ago, I was watching this really long Jim Cornette interview where he was breaking down the business of wrestling and what gets things over and everything. And I sent it to Joey. I said, "Hey, this is pretty much like PCL. This guy's talking about PCL. If you really just ignore the wrestling terminology, he's breaking down like what works and what doesn't work about PCL." It was very interesting. But that's kind of how I look at it. I feel even the offers and stuff like that. It's like it's like I feel like they're wrestling things or wrestling tropes. Perry versus the credenza match. Yeah, the credenza match. Whoever it'll be hanging over the ring, and whoever climbs up and gets and touches the credenza first gets to keep it. Did I see the video of Iron Sheik getting a boner wrestling Hogan? No, I've never seen that. Garrett says, I don't know anything about wrestling, but when I'm asked about it, I just say I'm an Attitude Era fan. That'll get you by. That'll buy you some cred. Perry is Mankind, Lois Psycho. I always hated Man. I never liked Mankind. And I was way more into, in the 90s, I wasn't as aggressively watching wrestling as I did in the 80s. But when I did, it was NWO just because it had Hogan and all these other guys. Then I thought the NWO stuff was fascinating. Oh man. Well, I should probably wrap it up here. Sorry, I don't know how we got into a wrestling tangent because I know that probably bores most people. But there does seem to be a lot of people that like PCL that are wrestling fans, and I don't think that's a coincidence. I don't think that's a coincidence at all. But we should wrap it up. Boy, so we'll see you Sunday at 2 p.m. Pacific. Not noon. I know that'll make Mumbles happy. Oh, that's such bullshit. That like yeah, yeah, I know. Hogan has a laundry list of tall tales. One of them is that he was asked to join Metallica. Of course, that's not. Of course, that's nonsense. And how he could tell that with a straight face is ridiculous. That's crazy. Yeah, I don't know. So I we'll do. I think next Sunday we'll take off or whatever. I got to figure out the bi-weekly schedule thing. We'll figure it out. But I feel so. I just feel. I feel like I went through a war tonight because he was harder to work with than he's been in a while, and I definitely feel it. I was like, oof. I earned my $15 of tips for TomB tonight for sure. Like it was like it was heavy. I felt like I definitely felt it when he was like screaming and like just being completely unworkable and some and then he pops out of that chair. That's the other thing too. You can almost hear like Jerry the King Lawler and JR calling a PCL stream like, oh, he's out of the chair, he's out of the chair. Where's he going, JR? I think he's going to take a defiant pee. It's like oh, he's gone, he's out the door. When's it coming back? I don't think Tom B's going to get it back this time, Jr. You might be right. I think he might be good. I think he might be done for good. I think he might actually shut off. Oh, he's shutting off the computer. Oh, he's turning off, Jr. No, stop him, stop him. Oh no, there he goes. All right, it's over. Just get play-by-play guys to call Perry's rage outs. Ooh, what's he opening now, Jr.? I don't know. It looks like a big box. We're going to see in a minute. He's taking a long time opening that box. He better watch out he doesn't cut himself with that knife, Jr. I know it's a lot of fans very concerned that Perry's going to actually draw blood one. Oh, he's got it out. What is it? Oh no, it's another box. We're going to be here a long time, Jr. Yes, we are. But all right, guys, we'll end it there, and we'll see you on Sunday. Good night.